Whew. It's fresh out here today. So let's take a look at some cold weather riding tips for getting the best out of your bike, but also to make sure you try and enjoy it as much as possible. Number one, keep warm. I know that's an obvious one, but getting cold isn't any fun. It's going to get dangerous pretty quick, but not to mention it slows down your reaction. So that's not great for riding bikes. First, let's take a look at the extremities. Now, I swear by using winter gloves in the coldest of conditions, but not everyone likes big, thick gloves for riding their bikes, for getting a good feel on the bars. What I do like is something with a thin palm, because that doesn't really let too much warmth in anyway. And then with a thicker front, because it's the wind chill that's really going to cool your hands down. And another tip for that is actually to use some of these hand guards. So I've seen these come from the enduro motorbike world first, and then enduro mountain bikes, people like Sam Hill have been running these. So if you clip these on your bar, they'll actually stop that wind coming, and that can make a big difference to how cold your hands get. Merino wool is also an amazing material, so I've got merino socks on today, also a merino base layer, so that's really important for keeping warm. You also want something that wicks the sweat away, because if you get really hot and sweaty and then stop, you'll be wet and you'll get cold really quickly. Layering is also really important, so I've got a merino wool base layer, a jersey and a jacket on today, because windproofing is really important. Again, almost like your hands, that wind chill is really going to get you cold straight away. So if it was slightly warmer, I'd actually rely on a gilet. They're really good for not adding too much bulk to your body. You can keep your arms nice and free, but have something just keeping your core nice and warm. Now, I do have fairly old, battered knees, but if I find they get cold, they start to get really painful. So generally in colder conditions, I wear 3/4 length tights underneath, some knee pads over the top, and then shorts, or like today, I've got some really thin riding trousers. It's well below freezing at the moment in the UK, which means the trails are running really well at the moment. They're rock hard, they're much firmer and faster than they have been in a couple of months probably. So it's actually really good, it's really grippy, but it's worth bearing in mind that you don't dig in at all in conditions like this. So for cornering, for slowing down, you'll sometimes find that even though there's grip, because you're not digging in, you're not getting almost as much friction in the ground. So what I've actually done is I've lowered my tyre pressure by a couple of PSI. I know that doesn't sound like a much, but it does make all the difference when it comes to these rock hard conditions. So lets those tyres deform a little bit more, stick to the ground and give you that little bit more cornering and stopping power. When it comes to planning the actual route of the ride, in the coldest of conditions, I try and make sure I'm doing an undulating ride. So going up and down hills the whole time, rather than one big up, then one big downhill, because that's really when you're going to get cold. Also, I'll quite often back it down on the power, so making sure on those longer rides I'm using more of my own muscle to keep warm. Also, your battery is not going to last as long in the cold conditions. I also try and plan an escape route when I'm thinking about where I'm going to ride, so I try not to get really far out into the wilderness in the worst of the conditions. Make sure I've got a fully charged mobile phone with me at all times, but also enough tools and spares to deal with the most common mechanical problems. So on my bike, I've got a multi-tool, a chain tool and a spare power link. I've got water, obviously that's really important as well. So I've got most of the tools I need to get me out of most of the problems I can foresee. I also take a backpack. I don't always ride with a backpack in the better conditions, but in the winter, in the really bad cold days, I make sure I'm really well prepared. So I've got a couple of spare tubes. I've got another warm layer, so in case I get stuck for any reason, I start getting cold. I've got a couple of gels in here in case I'm out there a bit longer than I expected, start getting hungry. I've also got something that's really light and can be life or death. This is a survival bag, so it's just a big plastic bag, but you'd be surprised how warm that keeps you. So if you or your friends get in any trouble, something as simple as a broken collarbone could mean you're stuck out there, and that is really going to make the difference. So although I don't normally try and ride with a backpack on my shorter rides, when it's cold, I'll definitely make sure I've got plenty of kit in there. According to the e-bike manufacturers, the lifetime of a battery is about 1,000 charging cycles, but the cold weather does affect this, so it's definitely worth taking your battery inside rather than keep it in a cold garage. Again, that's recommended by the manufacturers. So what I do, as it's really simple with most e-bikes, is just take my battery off there and take it in the house and actually charge it in there. Now, we've seen this hack from a friend of ours, Kieran, where it actually wraps the battery in a foil survival blanket to try and keep the ambient temperature up and make the battery last longer in that one charge. Now, that is going to be slightly harder in bikes like this. The battery is integrated into the frame, but it's an interesting idea. So there's just a few tips on how to try and stay warm whilst riding the bike, but also in case you have any emergencies. It can be as simple as getting a puncture. You'll find that you get cold really quick. Now, I really believe in layering. So today it's actually pretty cold, but it's just the wind that is the coldest part. So layering, but also make sure I've got something that's windproof on the outside. It makes a big difference. And I've got merino wool everything today. I'd have a merino wool onesie if I could find one. Also the glasses, that wind chill on the eyes, I find that my eyes really start watering if I don't have some riding glasses on days like this. If you want to see a video about motor fundamentals, click up there for some techie insight. Give us a thumbs up if you love riding your bike, whatever the weather, and hit that subscribe button.